Here we go.
Huzzah. This is so fun. I loved this idea, and I'm so glad that Shirley had this idea to do a Q&A session. And I think that this would be so fun for us to do, even like every couple of months. This is actually, everyone. So for those of you who just hopped on, welcome to the All-Star Beauty session for this evening. We do these every single week. And we just hop on, and we usually cover one specific makeup or skincare topic, but tonight we are doing a beauty Q&A session. So where we have a list of questions that were already submitted, and then people on the call can actually ask questions too. And we're just gonna see what we can answer. You know, I don't always have all the answers, but I know how to find them. So we'll just figure that out tonight. And this is great. So this is 3 months of us doing these sessions, and I think that's so awesome. Yep, this is our week. It might even be week 13, week 12 or 13, but I mean, like, we've done 3 full months of this now. So hooray us. How cool is that? Like, it's super cool. And I just am so appreciative of everyone who's hopped on and contributed and even just hung out and listened. We love having everyone on here. And as I mentioned, I don't have any makeup on, and I just have super simple skincare. I actually just have an oil on my skin, because sometimes when I answer questions, especially about makeup stuff, it's easier for me to show everyone how to do it. So I just decided to come with a blank canvas and see what we ended up playing in. So let's get to it with our first question. So did anyone want to ask me any questions from some of the submitted questions, or I could just try and pull some up too? Either way, what do you all think? We had some really great questions that were submitted. And
yeah, we did have good questions. One of the questions that I had was for brown eyes. Well, she asked 2 questions. Is it a no-no to wear brown eyeliner with black mascara? Does it have to be matchy-matchy?
Oh, not at all. Like, my whole philosophy around mascara is that, like, everyone has a personal preference as to what they feel more comfortable with when it comes to mascara, whether they want to do black or brown. But there's even like brown blacks that are not super black, you know, they're kind of a mix of the two. There's even like really fun, colorful mascaras. So I just say, like, whatever you're wearing for mascara, just go with whatever makes you feel the most awesome, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. And then as far as eyeliner, I'm always wearing different colors of eyeliner, so it absolutely does not need to be matchy at all. One of the interesting things though is if you're wearing like a black liner and you want to do brown mascara, you will see more of that contrast, because when things are the same, it blends a bit differently than when you have that contrast with lashes against a liner. And I think we're more used to seeing maybe like a brown liner or a blue liner or a plum liner with black lashes. But think about it when if someone actually has brown mascara on and a black liner, you're gonna see that difference in color in the lashes. So sometimes it just depends on the effect someone really wants. And I just say you got to try it out. That's kind of the one thing that I would maybe say is if you're doing a black liner, maybe do black mascara, because that just might be a better look than having like a black liner and brown mascara. But again, it's personal preference. I'm all about switching it up, So there's no real rules there when it comes to that. Okay.
Awesome. She asked another one as well about, she has brown eyes, beautiful brown eyes. Okay. She said, what color of eyeliner is best for brown eyes? Would it just be black?
Well, brown eyes, and I in August did a Zoom for someone else talking about like eyeshadows for eye color, and I go like really in depth, and I didn't know that it was actually going to be put on YouTube, so it's actually a searchable video, and I go like into detail about what works with eye color. And brown eyes are so cool because brown is a mix of all of the different colors basically. So when we think about like traditional eye color, you know, we think blue eyes, green eyes, hazel eyes. You know, my eyes can be super gray, and then brown, but brown isn't just brown. Like you have a huge range when you're thinking about brown eyes. I mean, they're not all the same. And even with blue eyes or green eyes, our eyes are actually a mix of different colors that are in there. So whatever color we're choosing for our eyeshadow and our eyeliner are actually going to pull out those different bits of personality in our eye color. And what's really cool about brown eyes is that colored eyeliner is something that I really absolutely love for brown eyes. And remember what I just said with the liner mascara question is that when things are the same, it's going to be much more muted. Similar colors are going to kind of mute things. So if you have brown eyes and you're using a brown liner, that's going to be a very like neutral look. But if you say use a blue liner, that is going to make those warmy and like orangey tones in that brown really stand out. If you're using a purple liner, that is going to pull out those golden and hazel qualities in the eye. If you're using greens, it's going to pull out the reds and those different tones in your brown eyes. So it really is so cool when it comes to brown eyes, is like whatever color you choose is just going to pull out different parts of the personality and the color in your eye color. So that's what I think is great, is that you can just have fun and play in color, especially with eyeliner, because eyeliner is actually also a super simple way to integrate color into eyeshadow. Not everyone's comfortable integrating colors into their shadow, but eyeliner is a very easy way to do that. And it can actually even be on the top or the bottom.
Yeah. Talk about
So
the bottom.
I have a
lot of
question.
my, oh, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
Oh, just about eyeliner stuff and the brown eye question. So I have brown eyes, but they're kind of light brown, and I would really like them to be dark brown. So is there a certain color that I should be wearing to make them look more deep and rich?
Well, that's something that's different. So pulling out a color is different than like deepening that the actual like shade of it, you know. But I would say typically greens are going to pull out more red, and those red tones are really what give a richness and depth to brown eyes a lot of times. So if someone's looking to brighten their brown eyes, I would have them go towards purpley tones to pull out the gold. And if they want to make their eyes look a little deeper and highlight those more like red tones and those things that add a little more depth, go for green. That's just but you never, I mean, the shade is very different than the actual color. So
that's so cool. I want to see pictures now, Jen.
But it's a really fun thing to play with, and just see how it does pull out those different qualities and characteristics. And that really goes for any eye color out there. But brown is just so much more nuanced so much of the time, and so you can literally play with anything and just see what happens. Also, Jen, playing in really rich, deeper browns, and maybe those that are a little warmer, try that and see what happens. So even if because again, like when you're operating in that same color palette, using browns, but erring on the side of a brown that maybe has a red brown in there, and see what it does to your eye color.
Cool.
Just see what happens.
Thanks.
And lighting will always impact that too. Next question. Oh, I see.
Is there a general rule when you're putting liner or some kind of pigment or color on your bottom lid about like how much to use or how far down to go, or like how far in or out?
Yeah. This is a fun opportunity to kind of play and show show some things. I'm just going to kind of grab one of my eyeshadow palettes. This is one that I started building when I was doing a bunch of color theory stuff. These ones are the ones that are like pink to red, obviously the purple, yellow, and like golds in those. And I'll just play in some of these to show you some of these little tricks. Why not? Good job. Now, I absolutely think that the area under the eye here is some of the most underutilized real estate on the face, because when you don't have mascara on, you know, it doesn't look like there's a lot there, but when you put on mascara, you really start seeing all this space that can be used. And raise your hand or speak up if you've ever been afraid to do eyeshadow or liner looks under your eye because you are afraid of it accentuating dark circles.
Me.
And I'm kind of peeking over at my screen over here. That's a comment that I get a lot.
Circles, those little fine lines.
Fine lines are another one. And so, you know, we're afraid of like maybe accentuating something that we want to camouflage, especially when we've done such a lovely job with our concealer and we've done all this work, and then we get in there and maybe we make it a little messy. Well, I will say, don't worry about that. One of the things that I really do love using shadows under the eye and shadows to line under the eye. Now, one of the tricks and things that really helps when you're doing something under the eye is sticking with a smaller brush, because we're going to have more control and it will help keep everything from getting so crazy town so quickly. So you can actually use a lot more of that space. I'm going to actually grab a couple other shadows from a bucket in front of me. Of course, it's going to take me like 300 tries to find the one color I'm looking for. Okay. So this is a neutral palette that I really love to have people start with. And this color right here, this is called One Night Sand, number 26. It's just a really awesome neutral matte. It's not too warm, but it's not ashy. And I literally don't have any makeup on right now at all. And I'm just taking a small brush and I'm just working it under the eye. So wherever we start with our brush is where the most color is going to be. And I'm just kind of patting it along. What this is going to do is work as a transition color to help keep it from getting too heavy underneath the eye. So a general rule that I have is I want it to be a little thinner through here and a little wider here. And then you can decide if you want it to narrow here or just continue with width. That's really going to depend on individual eye shape. So rule number one is I always start having it be a lot thinner through here, because again, we don't want it to drag anything downward. And we have a transition color. Next, I'm going to pick something with just a little more depth under the eye. And this can be neutral, this can be fun color. You could actually use a pencil if you want. And I'm going to start in just a little bit and I'm going to build color. So that's one thing too, is build little bits at a time if you're not used to it, so it doesn't get so out of control, and work those colors together. And then just continue maybe trying different shades that add more depth. I'm actually jumping now to this one that has a lot more depth to show you how this works. Now I'm just using little circular motions to work that in. Now what this is going to do is have a really soft effect around the eye, and they just blend together really nicely. Now, can you see how wide I've been able to go there and how far down I've been able to go? And see how big it's making my eye look compared to this one that has nothing. Now, on the other side, if I just went in with this like deep brown and just try to do like a solid harsh line, that's not nearly as flattering. And I'm going to do it kind of wide here. I'm going to show you kind of a no-no. See how this looks really different than something like this?
That's amazing.
Take a moment to have a transition color and see how with it being so wide here, it like changes my eye shape. It does crazy things. This is generally one of the no's that I say. Don't just do like one harsh, big, long line across the bottom. Like that's not going to be the most flattering option, but having a couple of colors that you work into and build can be very helpful. Now, what happens if you I always get accidentally crazy town. What do? This is where, so I usually start with doing concealer, but I always finish with a concealer under the eye too. So once my makeup look is done, you just go back in with your concealer, and sometimes it's just the concealer on my brush, and you can just work to clean up this edge here, maybe thin it out just a little bit. You can even do it on a side that you got a little excited on, like that. Thin it out just a little bit through there, narrow it. And then one of the tricks that I really like to do, where'd my other little fingers go? Here. One of the things I love about this palette is it comes with this really gorgeous highlight shade that I actually love for the cheek, but I love it in the inner corner. So when you pop a little bit of light right here, that really opens up that area also. So that's kind of another rule that I have when you're doing stuff under the eye, is pop a little light in that inner corner, and it really brightens it up and chills it out a little bit. Now I'm going to fix this other side so I don't have to look at myself the rest of this with that going on there. But those are kind of some of the rules. And then when you get your mascara on, it will actually tone it down so much. So I'm not actually going to take this off. I'm just going to make it chill out a little bit. And I'm going to blend. So if you get a little too harsh also, you can go with your small brush, clean that off a little bit, with that first color I started with, and I'm just going to actually buff it down. Let's see if this works. Just keep blending, and we're going to buff it down a little bit and soften it. See, I'm doing these little circular motions. Sorry, this is a really crappy brush and it's kind of scratchy. That's another thing. Good quality brushes around the eye, especially when you're buffing, make a really, really big difference. This is one of my like crappy ones and it's so scratchy. So again, that's another thing. Don't use scratchy brushes around the eye.
I've never used a transition shade for my bottom lid.
It makes a really big difference when you're trying to play with color. I just really think transition colors help generally, because that's how you can get a really nice blend and get that gradation of color. Gradation, I don't know what's the right word.
Gradient?
But it's very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to put a little concealer just on the tops of my lids because I feel a little crazy town right now. Just having something on the bottom. And then I'll show you when I get the mascara on how it makes a big difference. And just a little mascara on the bottom. That's not the one I want. Mascara. I have this problem where I'm always mixing my new mascara with my old mascaras, and then I don't know. I don't know what's what.
I have that same problem.
I don't know, why am I like this? I don't know.
So I'm just gonna hop in really quick on that note, because I had the same issue with getting my mascaras mixed up. So I started using a Sharpie and writing on the bottom the month, like just the number.
Dating
so then
it.
I know. Then I can be like, oh, it's been 3 months. Chuck it.
No, I think that's an amazing idea. And I think having a Sharpie, what I need to do is keep them where I keep my brushes and stuff, because I did that once, but I made the mistake of writing on the side of it and I made it wear off. And then every time I open one, I'm like, oh, I'll do it and I'll write on it. And then I don't. And then mix them up. But see how with a little mascara on, see how nice and like soft and blended that looks? So we have it thinner here, it widens. We have that gradation of color because we used a couple of shades, and then that pop of light in the inner corner that really opens it all up and keeps it from being heavy. And again, if you're afraid of it getting crazy and fine lines, stick to matte shades, avoid things that are super shimmery, especially out this direction underneath. But you can absolutely pop a little light in there, and then you can always at the end just go in with your concealer, even just a little bit that's left on your brush like this, and then just do a nice clean sweep and clean it up and make sure that we didn't get any of that. But a good concealer is everything. So Voila. Fun times.
That's awesome.
Next question. And I see Shirley has a bunch of ones that she shared with us. So let's pick one. Oh, what's the best kind of foundation to use if you are a senior? Cream, powder-based, spray-on, or what? Generally, more mature skin battles a bit more dryness. We are going to be dealing with fine lines, and it just depends on our ultimate goal with foundation. Like, what is your goal with foundation? How much coverage do you want? Do you have hyperpigmentation that you want to camouflage, or do you just want something really nice and light to even out skin tone? Like, that's the first place I start, and that's really going to guide the recommendation. But I always want to stick with a product that is a bit more luminous and does have a good amount of coverage for what it is. And that is typically going to be something that is a cream, because you can always sheer out a cream, and liquid is such a big category that there are some liquid foundations that are super full coverage, and there are some that are super lightweight. And have a very low pigmentation. So it's pretty hard to just categorize like powder, liquid, cream. But that's why I really do love a good cream product. Now, they are so easy to sheer out, and they have a ton of pigmentation for what you get. So you could just basically use less product. So that's what's really important for coverage on more mature skin, is you just want to use as little product as possible to get the best result, whatever result you are looking for. And I love something that does have a more glowy, luminous finish, and we don't want it to settle in any of the lines. And if you feel like, see how as I turn my head, this catches the light? That's what I'm going for. I want to avoid matte. I want to avoid matte heaviness and dry. And that's why I typically avoid powder foundations in and of themselves on more mature skin. Now, if I want to go extra glowy, and see how easy that was? I use hardly any, and I'm already neutralizing any redness, getting a nice level of coverage, just light coverage with barely any product. That's what I want to go for. Now, if I want something even more glowy, I can take a little moisturizer or a little beauty oil, facial oil, and just put a little drop or two in my product or on my brush or on my sponge or whatever I want to do. I'm going to use a little sponge right now and see how this goes. And I'm going to press it in and work it in and get more coverage and more glow that way. So I love a good cream for more mature skin, and I love that I can adjust the texture of it, and I can make this a liquid just by adding in a nice beauty oil and working it into the skin that way. And then see how it catches light there? See that lovely glow that I'm getting? And then I just recommend only building additional coverage where we need it. So we don't want to do, even if someone has, or even if you have spots that you want to conceal more, especially when it comes to something like hyperpigmentation, sun damage, just work on those spots individually and find some of those areas, and then just take your concealer and then just press on those areas. So we're not doing that level of coverage all over, because we don't want anything working to settle in fine lines. And this area is typically because we have movement, our face moves too. I mean, it's going to make product move, and then we're alive and we're warm, and our product's going to soften on the skin. And we don't need crazy full coverage out this direction, like through here typically. So areas that you do have more movement, and if you do have more fine lines, start with as little coverage as possible, keeping it nice and luminous, and just focus that cream product more so if you're doing more full coverage on areas where you have spots that you want to pop a little more coverage on. Now, and again, like powders can just be so dry. So the next question on here is, should I use a powder? And if so, why and what kind? So there's a lot of different types of powders. There are pressed powders and loose powders. This is pressed. Do you have any loose powders next to me? I don't know if I have any loose powders in my immediate sphere, but pressed powders and loose powders. And then you have something like this that is a translucent powder. And let me grab it out here. Something that has, this is like a pressed color powder. And then you even have products that are more like a true powder foundation that have even more pigmentation, but they will have other like elements to them to simplify to make it more of like a foundation type product. Now, I generally for everyone am more of a powder minimalist. So what your powder is going to do is it's going to set your product in place and help it last and stay and be amazing. But I love, and it can also alter the finish. So it will take down additional shine, and you can use a powder to even bump up the coverage of your makeup. So generally, I love starting with pressed powders, because the main difference between a loose powder and a pressed powder is that pressed powders just have a few additional elements that help them press in. They're much more portable, whereas a loose powder, you can get such an awesome pure product and you can really work it in a sponge and you can use a very specific setting technique. However, loose powders can be really messy. And that's just not for everyone. I avoid loose products personally when I use them because I spill them all over. And like last week's holiday fun look that we did, my glitters are loose and they literally just get everywhere. And so I love starting with a pressed powder because I just feel like they're much more functional and reasonable. And something like a translucent pressed powder is really a great option for everyone. And you can just go in and use a nice fluffy brush and just go in and take down the areas where you maybe don't want so much shine and just do a really light layer to set your product. Now, one of the reasons why having just a simple translucent pressed powder is also great is that if you have done your foundation all over, you do want to set it with a little bit of powder before you go in with additional powder products. Because let's say I want to do bronzer and blush and all these things that are powder. If I haven't done a nice, just even a simple layer of powder on my cream or liquid foundation, when I go in with my bronzer, what's going to happen? I'm going to be setting that cream product with that color powder, that contour and that bronzer and that blush, and it can actually get really patchy. And it can cause certain products to oxidize when it mixes with a cream, and it can change the color. So I always recommend with a powder, just start with a great translucent pressed powder. It's functional, it can go with you, works on all skin tones, and it'll just do a nice light layer. Now, a color powder can be really cool because on days where I don't want as much makeup, maybe I'll just do concealer and just use this as my foundation, and that's great. That works for me. I do proper skin prep if I do that, so it's not dry. What's also great with a color powder is that it can be really great to touch up throughout the day if people just want to bump up their coverage a little more, or if generally you do want a little more coverage. So if you have like a pesky spot that is challenging to conceal and you're having a hard time concealing, setting with a color powder is great because it's doing two things. It's going to set your cream product, but it's also helping kick up your coverage. So say I have like a little pesky, because I do have a pesky spot of hyperpigmentation right through here. I can go through and I like setting that with my color powder and a sponge because that's just setting it, and it's also giving a little more coverage to that spot. So it just really depends on what works for you, what's most functional, what you're going for. But it's all personal preference. And some people do like using maybe something that has a little, like this one's a little yellowy to brighten and camouflage certain areas. The way people, if you've heard people talk about like banana powders and whatnot, they can also use that color to create an effect on the skin. Any questions on those couple things that I just went over? We want to move on to the next question. Okay. Oh, and I just colored that. I just covered that. The difference between translucent and color powder besides the obvious. So that was the next question too. That's awesome. And I think I covered that as well. But if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to ask, but those are kind of the general options. Next question. I have a really skinny upper lip. How can I make my lips look bigger? Yay. Well, we all know how I feel about that. I love playing with lip shape. Love it. And I love helping women not be intimidated by utilizing color on their lips and trying techniques to really enhance their lip shape, because I feel like there's just this whole thing where it's like, if you have a small upper lip, you have small lips, you can't wear deeper colors or darker colors or brighter colors. And I'm just like, that's just silly town. We can do whatever we want. No one's our boss. And I'll show you the tricks for that. So first step is we want to pick a texture that works for you. So if texture's big, like I'm really weird about texture on my lips. I just am. So again, I always like to start like, what texture do you like? Do you want something more matte and long wearing? Do you love a gloss? Do you love a traditional lipstick? That's where we always start, is with texture. Like that's where I start anyway. And you have a lot of options. Now, next, we want to pick a complementary lip liner. So what color should I put on tonight? And we'll play and I'll show a trick. What color? You know what I want to do actually? Do I have it here? Maybe I don't even have it right here. Maybe I'm just full of crap. Oh, please. My other stuff right here. I don't know if I played with this color yet, so this is what I'm going to do. Oh, my glasses on it. Yeah. I'm going to do just a pretty rosy color. I'm going to find I'm going to use a lipstick if I can find the one I'm looking for.
I'm going to follow along with you. So do you have any suggestions for a lip color for me?
I am, well, you know my answer. It's always what makes you feel awesome. What's like a power color is a great, when you're trying a new technique, sometimes like starting with something that makes you feel awesome is a great place to start. Because if you're trying a new technique and you're using something that kind of makes you uncomfortable, it's going to be hard to assess what we're working with. So always start like what makes you feel awesome. And I'm going to go with this pretty rosy color because I really want to play with these. So I haven't played with them together yet. Now, when we're doing more stuff on our lips, start with the lip scrub. Again, like last week, I've been saving to scrub my lips till the call, and it drives me crazy. So one thing, when we exfoliate our lips, we're pumping up the circulation, we're getting the dry skin off, all that. And you'll see how it really helps my lip color. And the circulation is really going to help with the fullness. It's going to give us a temporary little like boost in our lip fullness, which that's yay. I exfoliate my lips when they need them, which in the winters fairly regularly. Especially with like mask wearing, I feel like this is like such a must. A product like this, you're not going to hurt your lips exfoliating regularly. You're just not. And you can even just like use a toothbrush, whatever works for you. Little circular motions. Now, also, we have a tendency when we do our foundation and concealer, I just think I inhaled some sugar from that lip scrub, by the way. That's first. That's first. I don't think I've ever done that. Never inhaled the sugar from the lip scrub. But apparently, if you're me, that's possible. See how that just boosted my lip color and everything? But when we do our coverage, we can mute our lip color. We get our foundation on. There's a lot of lip techniques where you put concealer on your lips. That's why we also follow the fullness of our lips, not the color. So look at my lip and try to not stare at my mustache, but it's there, let's be honest. Can you see the difference in the fullness of my lip versus the color of my lip? Like the fullness you can see goes like through here and the color stops here. So we generally have more fullness on our upper lip than we give ourselves credit for most of the time. I am choosing a creamier shade because I do want something that has a little bit more of a sheen, because again, something that reflects light is also going to help our lips look bigger and fuller, especially through the center here, and this area through here is going to help our lips look fuller. So something, I love products that are creamier and that reflect light, and a gloss is really great. I'll probably top with a gloss when I'm done. So I'm just going to go in with my lip color first and get it on. This is 201. I'm getting it on. And not even trying to be like crazy perfect, but I could probably wheel a lipstick in my sleeve. Next, I'm going to go in with my lip liner. Now, this is the new shade in Rose, and I'm going to sketch. This is in the same color family, but it does have more depth. Doing that and using a liner that has a little more depth is actually going to really help give your lips awesome dimension and help create that fullness. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to anchor my elbow, and I like sitting to do a lip liner because I can anchor my elbow, and or you can anchor your finger on your chin if you need to. Do that. And I'm going to follow the fullness of my lip, remembering that your natural lip line is merely a suggestion and you can overdraw it really as much as you want. But start with following that fullness. And you can do little layers, back and forth. Little bits at a time. And build up fullness on the upper lip. I should not talk while I do this though. Now what's interesting for me is that one of the sides of my Cupid's bow is lower than the other side, so I always have to overdraw just to make them even anyway. And then you can always do this check. And just tighten your lip like that to really make sure that it's even.
That's kind of impressive.
I really love this combo. Yes. What did Jennifer just say? I'm just scrolling down. Can't see, it pops up on my phone and then it disappears. I'm checking on it. Oh. Yeah, Berry Berry is another great one for this because that's going to have even more depth, and it's going to, again, like, it's a little lighter through here, and that depth is going to create that dimension. Now, I really wanted to make my lips look extra, read all about it. I can top with a gloss. It can be something that is a little more clear. This one's the clear that has that shimmer in it. I could use something like Faith that is in the same color family, just to give it a little more, even more dimension. And you can even just do it in the center. Just pop it on. There, and as it catches the light, it's going to add even more fullness. Yay! What do we think? Love it. Perfect. Oh gosh, my husband's blasting music. He forgets that I'm working here. Whatever. Next question. Does anyone have any questions about that? And this is really fun to play with colors. Like, you could even do something, if you don't have a gloss, use a color that's even a little bit lighter through the center of the lip like this. And that's going to give that fullness just like this gloss, that same effect is having. See how it makes it look a little lighter, it catches the light. A little bit lighter color through there, lip color will also have that effect if you don't have products that have the sheen. The other day, I used creme brulee and macaroon together, and that was really beautiful. But I did a creme brulee in the center because it's that lighter pinky tone, and then macaroon as a liner on the outside, and it created that dimension even though it was a matte pairing. So utilize those color differences if you don't have or don't want the texture differences.
Stephanie, your audio is doing that thing. Do you have a trick for it, or?
Just pop in my headset. Pray for the best. Have it on standby.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I have these on standby for when my audio decides it's had enough of this. All right, next question. My daughter is 12 and keeps bugging me to wear makeup. Is there a midway point that will make her and me happy? Yes, I love this conversation. So the number one thing that I recommend, granted, it's your house, it's your rules. You need to do what you feel is appropriate. Everyone has a different age where they feel like it's appropriate for their kids to start playing in makeup. There's a difference too between like playing in makeup and going out and about in the world in makeup. Now, I always say like, let them play and have boundaries. Let them have boundaries, but let them still play and explore, because makeup is a skill. It is a skill. And the more we allow them to play in product, the better they get at it. And when they get better at it, they find, first of all, what works for them. Like maybe this is what makes me feel awesome. Maybe this is what makes me feel awesome. When we give kids the opportunity to have that time where they can play in product, they figure out what works for them. And then they figure out how to do it appropriately. Because like this whole demonstration we did under the eye, we're just going heavy and going crazy town. It's going to look even more heavy and crazy town, as opposed to playing and practicing and actually learning a technique. And so it's executed better. And it's really empowering and fun to play in product. Like it's still heck, I'm 39 and it's still like, I do it for work. It's the best. And so that's what I recommend, is like deciding what those boundaries are for when we play at home, and deciding what those boundaries are for you going out and about in public. One thing I love is clear brow gel. And we can use clear brow gel to help teach great brow grooming techniques. And brow grooming around 12 is when I like to kind of start. I mean, I had a shenanagram for eyebrows at 12 years old. Holy schmoly. And it was really awesome for me to actually help get them groomed. So clear brow gel, great place to start, but it can also be used as mascara. So it's a great thing to practice our mascara technique. So the first time they have something in their hand to put on their lashes isn't like black mascara. So next, like a brown mascara can be a great place to start. And then a compact. I love starting teens with like one of those pressed powders that I showed. One of my best friends, her daughter, who is 12, she just turned 13, I guess she's 13 now, but when we did this, she was 12. And we got her set up with like a clear brow gel. I showed her how to use some of her little compacts, of a few blushes, some lip glosses, and a powder, a pressed powder that she can use to just even out coverage and still keep it really light. But I would say like start little things at a time. Like, okay, so we can wear maybe 2 products at a time out and about. Whereas like we can play with all the stuff at home, but just figure out what works for you, because it really is different for everyone. And that's where I typically like to start, is start with little bits at a time, little things they can use. One thing I do say, especially for that age range, I actually think it's better to start with better products and less of them, as opposed to just like giving your hand-me-downs and all these things, for 2 reasons. Because we can teach our tweens and teens how to appropriately care for your product. If you have something that's a little nicer, you're going to learn how to take care of it better. You're going to learn how to keep your stuff clean. Second, most of the products that are marketed towards that age range is absolute garbage, like literal absolute garbage, where some like things they found at Claire's and some other places literally have asbestos fibers in them level of garbage. For me, I care what goes on my skin, so I absolutely care what goes on my kids' skin. So why would I then like get just like some trash products? And then it's an educational experience. because also better products are going to work better. So when they are playing, when they are having that time, they're actually like learning how to use something that works. So that's kind of my take on it is, clear brow gel, maybe a brown mascara, or just use that clear brow gel, a couple lip glosses, and maybe like a blush or something that works great. We don't always need to go eyelinery. We don't always need to go eyeshadowy at 12, but they are fun to have just to play in and learn. But that's usually where I start with kind of that age range. Any questions on that? No? Okay. My skin feels really tight and dry. I use Dove to clean my face. What am I doing wrong? Well, when our skin feels really tight and dry, that just indicates we're not using appropriate products for our skin. Right when we wash our face, if we start getting that like those little like needly feelings, if we just feel like it's tight and dry, we are overstripping our skin and we are using something that is too drying. So that's the main thing, is that I'm not going to knock a product. I'm just saying like that's probably not appropriate for your skin. It's not nourishing enough. So I would say, as opposed to using something like a Dove bar soap, switch to something maybe like a cream cleanser, or even an oil cleanser. An oil cleanser is really phenomenal if you feel like your skin is stripped, because it will remove makeup. It's super nourishing. I really feel like they're appropriate for everybody. So that's really the thing. If your skin's tight and dry, you need something that is going to be more nourishing as a cleanser, that probably isn't throwing off the pH of your face and removing that really awesome protective barrier that we have to protect our skin. Any questions on that? That was a quick and simple. And there's a lot of cleansers out there, and there's a lot of options. And what works for one person doesn't work for another, but listen to your skin. If your skin doesn't feel right, we need to make an adjustment. And that tight, dry feeling is actually when we strip that barrier, we actually can start getting little micro tears and damage in the skin because we have compromised that barrier. We need to do that.
And I have found personally that, like, even since I've been using skincare, it's really worked well for me throughout the year as the seasons change and the weather changes and all of that. Like, I have to adjust what I'm using because my skin does start to feel like that tight and dry, even with really great product.
Yes. And that brings me to another point. And I love that point. When you do make an adjustment, your skin also has to go through an adjustment. So like for me right now, I'm doing more of a transition into my more winter skincare routine. It's going to take my skin a couple weeks to like figure its life out. Even though it wants more nourishing ingredients, you are still going to have an adjustment period. So if you're using something that is making your skin feel really dry and you transition to something that is more nourishing, your skin's going to have like a minute where it's trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So you might actually have 2 to 3 weeks where your skin actually feels more oily before your skin's like, oh, okay, I don't need to have this rebound reaction. I don't need to be doing this. And it's going to normalize a bit. So keep that in mind too, especially if you're using something that's been more drying and you're adding stuff in that's more nourishing. Allow for that time period and that adjustment where your skin is trying to figure out exactly how much oil it needs to produce. There is always going to be that transition. Thank you for bringing that up, Kelly. This one, if we're not supposed to pick at acne, what are we supposed to do with it? This is a really hard one. You have to just literally leave it alone and treat it with products. And here's why. For several reasons. And when I saw this question, I immediately thought of my 15-year-old son. Now, he has skin that scars like instantly. Like you look at his skin, he scars. He actually still has scars on his face from when he was birthed. Because that was the situation. And he was born like all beat up and had all these scratches on his face that didn't seem crazy, but he literally still has scars on his face from that situation. And I really have to like ingrain it into his head. Like you cannot pick at your face, or even like, I mean, I'm an esthetician. So like I've taught the child actually appropriate ways to do an extraction. What we do in this house. But because I know he fully won't leave them alone, even if I make him. So I'm like, you got to know how to do this properly. But I had told him like, you will scar. your skin marks and scars incredibly easily. Now, what also happens as we age, we get to a point in our hormones change, and we can actually start getting hyperpigmentation much more easily from blemishes as well. So we can get pock marks and we can get indentation scarring, but we can also get that purple hyperpigmentation from acne as well. So that's one reason why we want to leave them alone. Now, the second is whenever we open the surface of our skin, we are just asking for the bacteria that is in that to spread, and more yuckiness to get in there. So those are kind of the main reasons. We also will do so much more damage. We bust cell walls, we do all this type of stuff. Now, again, like finding a good solid routine and finding the right products, and then it just takes discipline to not mess with them. There are ways to do appropriate extractions of things. However, the more red and inflamed something is, the more you want to mess with it, the more you absolutely have to leave it alone. Because something that is already super red and super inflamed, and in that state, when you try and mess with it, that skin is not in a state where it can actually heal in that moment. And so if you are doing something on your skin that is already red, it's already irritated, it's already inflamed, there's already like infection-y stuff going on, when we start messing with it, when we start messing, it's only going to get worse from there. It really is. So integrating in like a good solid routine, integrating masking in, anything that you do to take down inflammation, both internally and externally, is the key. That's it, like finding what works to manage your internal and external inflammation, and then seeing if there are any clinical topicals that need to be utilized as well. But here's the thing, is that there's a difference between a blemish, a breakout, and then true acne. Acne is a medical condition, and it's hard as an esthetician. I get a lot of questions around acne, and in reality, I'm actually limited in the scope, in my scope of practice, for what level of acne I'm actually even allowed to treat, because certain levels of acne become a true medical condition that need to be treated by a doctor, like a dermatologist. I'm actually not even allowed to treat certain levels of acne, and I have to be very careful about the recommendations that I make on that as well. So I always really try and manage people's expectations around the difference between like a blemish, a breakout, and then true acne. But just leave it alone and do your stuff and find the right things to put on it. As far as skincare, can anyone just get a step-by-step system and have it work? Okay. So our skin is so nuanced, and we're so nuanced as humans, and where we live like impacts how our skin does. I mean, who's gone on vacation and you had totally different hair and totally different skin and all these other things? There's so many variables that also impact our skin. And so my whole thing with a step-by-step system, no matter what it is the benefit of a step-by-step system is that it's actually a process that people can easily follow. If people can just be like, I do this first, and then I do this, and then I do this next, one of the number one things we can do to impact the quality, health, and condition of our skin is like just doing something consistently and regularly. So a step-by-step system is structured so it's easy to follow, easy to execute, and people know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, that whole situation. And just by taking those steps regularly, we can absolutely see improvement in our skin. However, there are going to always be limitations to that, which is why when I make any sort of skincare recommendation, I kind of can consider everything somewhat step-by-step, because I'm telling people like, do this for your cleansing, do this next, do this next. And that's step-by-step to me, but I consider that to be like, that's your base routine. Everyone needs a base routine. And that's a lot of times what a step-by-step skincare system is the base routine with your cleanser, maybe some of them are cleanser, toner, moisturizer, some are a cleanser, moisturizer, mask, whatever it is. This is like your basic routine. We do that consistently. We see how the skin responds, what the quality condition of the skin is, and then we see what additional nuanced steps we want to integrate into that. So yeah, you can absolutely see results from a step-by-step system. It will just always have its limitations, and it still just needs to be appropriate for that person and for their skin. Skin is not one size fits all, and most of those step-by-step systems that we purchase are very one size fits all. The caveat for that is with, again, breakout prone and acneic skin, because they are actually typically integrating targeted clinicals into all of those steps to specifically treat some of those root causes, and then some of those ancillary effects of the breakouts in the acneic skin. So it
What's
just
ancillary? You just said a word.
all the
What's,
other stuff that all the stuff that comes along with it.
oh,
You know,
got you.
like,
Okay.
so like
You had me
the root cause of acne is proliferation of a very specific type of bacteria in the skin. Now, that is typically spurred on from specific hormones. And all the other things that come along with that are, the additional inflammation and all of that other stuff, the excess oil, all of those things, because that hormone produces a specific additional amount of oil in the skin, which that bacteria absolutely loves and creates an environment where they flourish. And then that creates this chain reaction of breakouts and all of those things. So when you are using a step-by-step system that specifically targets that skin concern and condition, it is actually going to have all those clinicals in there that are drying, that help kill that bacteria, that maybe treat inflammation, that probably reduce oil, all of that. So yes and no. It's like nothing is going to work for everyone. There's nothing on the planet that works for everyone,
all year round, especially.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way, especially because there are those other variables in our life that impact it. I mean, I know as a makeup artist, there are things that I can't use here. And all these other makeup artists are like, this is great. It's, whether it be a makeup or a skincare product, I'm like, it's too dry for that here. It won't work here. And then there are things I can use here that in LA or, place where there's actual humidity in the air, they live it. And then there's people in Florida that have to use something different because it's just so densely humid there. So again, there's all those other variables, but I've always said the number one thing that is an advantage of a step-by-step system is it's very easy, very straightforward, something that people can do and use. Because raise your hand if you have not used products simply because you didn't know how to use it. I'm not just talking skin, like hair. How has this product? Everyone's like, this is great. And you're like, cool. I don't know how to use this. What does this go before? Does this go after? What does this do? So again, I always say, like, number one thing that's going to make your skin better, anything better, is actually doing the stuff, using the product. And so again, like, those systems just take all of that guesswork out typically. However, they're very much one size fits all blanket approach.
Would you ever say that that's a good place to start? Well, I guess it depends, right?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's like, that's kind of the way that's just what I consider a base routine for people. Everybody needs a base routine of what they do for their cleanser, what they do for their moisturizer, and what they're doing for like their SPF or like a mask or a tone, whatever, like a simple treatment step in there too. Like that, to me, even just like a cleanser moisturizer is a base routine. What are you using to cleanse your skin? What are you using to like nourish your skin? And that can be a step-by-step. And that's how I approach the way I make skincare recommendations. I had someone I was answering questions to and getting set up. We're going to start working on a teen that has some breakout issues. And even when I know we're going to need to do some more targeted clinical steps in a routine, I always start with that daily routine. Always start with, what will they do? What's our daily routine going to be? How far is that going to get us? Let's see what the condition of the skin is, how it responds, and then we'll go and see what other nuanced steps that we need to add in. But that's, to me, like, that's the way I think about a step-by-step routine, is just any daily, like, what are the basics?
Love it.
Yeah. And that's why having that routine is like, it's everything. That's everything for skincare, is that base daily routine.
Yeah, it is. I think that was our last question. Was there anything else? People can pop it in the chat.
And we're like right on time too. Look at us go. Yes.
I know. And you said, how many is this in a row that we've done?
Well, this is our 3-month
Anniversary.
Zoom-iversary.
I love that.
Look at us go. Having
So
a grand old
consistent.
time. I know. Got a YouTube channel rocking.
What's up?
What's up with us? Yes. Alrighty, woo. And again, like what's awesome about this is that if you have any questions, ask your beauty guide. You know, like makeup and skincare is so specific. It's so subjective. And, you know, we just want to figure out what is right for you and what makes you feel amazing every single day. And that's why we are here to help in that process and figure out what, you know, what's your jam and work on those techniques. It's not all about just the product. It's about learning those fun techniques. And that's why we do this. So we can teach all of those awesome things to help you have a routine that you absolutely love and will do, and you get the results that you want to get. So yay. Thanks for coming, everyone.
This was such a good one.
I love this. I think that we definitely need to start integrating this in at least quarterly. Like we can wrap the quarter with all this fun stuff, or we can even just do them every couple of months, or you know, whatever we want.
And I would say if anybody has ideas of what they want to see specifically, reach out to your beauty guide and suggest them. And let's do that.
Yeah, we love suggestions. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Yes.
This was so great.
And everybody, we still have some really awesome holiday sale things going on. So make sure you get with your beauty guide and ask about the brush sale and the Brighter Together bundle sale and the Ricky Light sale. Like this whole thing that we're doing with all like what's holding my phone, like these are these really amazing lighted mirrors that I can't live without. They're literally on sale for like 2 more days. So don't miss out on that because they make awesome gifts. It's like my favorite beauty tool is this lighted mirror situation. Kelly just said she threw hers out the car door by accident and it like
It didn't break
like a champ.
I mean, it flew out the door.
You're just very determined to figure out how shatterproof it really
turns out they are shatterproof.
Turns out that's a fact, and it really is shatterproof. So there we go.
All right.
All right, everyone have a great night. Thanks for coming. And yeah, send your suggestions. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your beauty guide and have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.